Good morning, California, and welcome to a beautiful day here at Longwood Gardens in southeastern Pennsylvania. My name is Carl, and I'm the Conservatory Manager, and I want to take you on a brief tour of some of these fantastic holiday decorations that have been crafted by the staff here at Longwood. The first thing we're looking at as we walk into the East Conservatory is a beautiful golden wreath made of preserved oak leaves. And that's just one of 3 wreaths. We have over 2 acres of conservatories in our complex here, and we're going to be looking at all of those. The largest one as we first walk in, the East Conservatory. Our oval basin flowing over the beautiful bronze urns. Right now everything is white behind it with white cyclamen, white amaryllis, and of course our silver eucalyptus, all grown here at Longwood. On the right hand side, a giant cycad, Encephalartos woodii. At the far end, our tallest tree, a beautiful concolor fir that we'll be having a look at as we make our way down there. As we venture to the right, we see one of our first decorated trees, and we have more than 30 decorated trees in the entire conservatory. We have a barn full of ornaments. So looking at some of the detail on these ornaments, remember that we have thousands upon thousands of ornaments that we can pull from each and every year. This year we're doing more of a blue and a white theme in our East Conservatory, and you're going to see we have quite a few different ones as we go throughout the rest of the conservatory. In the East Conservatory, unusual plants like this fantastic philodendron, because I am a plant person. It's this philodendron golden xanadu. Look at that beautiful red midrib on the underside. It's a very large specimen plant that we have over here. We'll pan back over and look at some of our other large plants, this giant Angiopteris. That's a 15-foot tall fern. We have other beautiful foliage plants, including Chinese fan palms and very fragrant things like our scented geraniums. As we make our way back to our second area, we're going through what we call the North Corridor, a giant staghorn fern hanging overhead, about 350 pounds. And then we start to see glimpses of our next group of decorated trees, and we have a trio of 3 trees back here. The colors on this, mostly gold, with hints of chartreuse and plum. And again, each of the ornaments hand-selected for these areas to match perfectly. These trees were all selected from local tree farms to give us this beautiful mix of heights so that we have what looks like, again, a family of trees. As I'm backing up away from those trees, I'm going to pan around and give you a glimpse of North America's largest indoor green wall. So this green wall, as you can see, stretches far as the eye can see in a beautiful curve, and behind those doors 18 individual restrooms that of course are highly used this time of year. The green wall has been up for about 10 years now, and we have a conglomeration of 25 different ferns from all over the world growing mostly in rock wool. Rock wool almost looks like house insulation, so we can see a little bit of it underneath there. They're in 12-inch panels with a piece of metal across the front of it to keep them from falling out. And we plant little plugs in there. We're constantly grooming these ferns, taking off the bad leaves so that, of course, it looks as perfect as possible. And we like to tease people that when grooming this green wall, it's almost like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. Once you finish one end, you have to start on the other end as well. 55,000 individual plants out here. It takes one of our part-timers probably 35 or 40 hours per week just to do the maintenance on that wall. We're moving back through our conservatory, looking at a beautiful set of palms. These are called Christmas palms. If they had fruits on them this time of year, they'd be a beautiful bright red. They are a tropical palm that comes from tropical portions of the world. Adonidia morellii from the Philippines. You can hear the music playing in the background. We are not quite open to the public yet. We open at 10 o'clock in the morning. We'll be open till 10 o'clock at night. The golden flowers of Pachystaches. This is one of our permanent plants here in the conservatory. The flowers are actually white, and of course the yellow portion is a bract. So that gives us extra long appreciation for plants like that. We're entering one of our first patios. This is called the Court of Palms. So we can see some large palm trees in the distance with our Phoenix reclinata, our Woodettia, the foxtail palms, and then we have some very large Adonidia right there. But what makes this court very unique is the fact that we have this inlay on the floor. So there's a palm inlay. Those are actually granite pieces made to look like palm fronds. As we move our way down, we can see our beautiful blue basin. It's Brazilian blue granite. We got one of the last pieces of stone out of the quarries in Brazil before it was closed down and made that beautiful fountain. Beautiful hot pink begonia, and then a backside view of our first poinsettia standard. We grew those standards here at Longwood. It took about 3 years to get them to that size. So we continue down our pathway. We get a glimpse of our large tree in the distance there with some beautiful flowers in front. On the left-hand side, that's Plectranthus thyrsoideus, the blue coleus coming from South Africa. Very unusual and somewhat hard to grow. And then a bedding crop of white cyclamen with the silver fern called Phlebodium. Our next tree over here has a mixture of cobalt blue and silver ornaments. This is also a concolor fir, beautiful soft needled fir. But again, the details that we put into each of the trees so that they are completely unique from the others, but also matching the plants around them. It's a fantastic detail that Longwood does. We're going to loop around and we're going to have a look at our citrus. These are grapefruit, hybrid grapefruit, cultivar called Oro Blanco. Oro, gold, Blanco, white. So gold skin and white flesh on the inside. We have about 15 of these trees growing in containers that were designed here at Longwood. Those containers can be lifted and moved, and they remind us why Pierre DuPont actually built these conservatories, and that was, of course, to grow citrus. Because in the 1920s, you couldn't just buy an orange from the store. You had to be wealthy or grow them yourself. So he was both and grew the citrus in his conservatory. So here's a peek at our tallest tree in the conservatory, a beautiful blue concolor fir. I love the Tiffany blue boxes. That's a pretty big diamond ring in there, don't you think? And when you look at the ornaments on here, again, beautiful shades of Caribbean blue, silver, and white. And all of these things hand-selected for this tree specifically. When you look at the packages as well, each of the packages is wrapped with a different type of paper. So we have silvers and whites. When you look at the bows on there, each one hand done. Even some of the ornaments that are placed on those packages really make each of these things a special treat. Longwood does try to incorporate as much horticultural magic as possible. So you can see the pine cones and the twigs going in on something like that. To come over here, we've got some greenery with some ornaments. Come down here, a larger ornament, and of course some of our anthurium flowers. And again, each package completely unique, which really makes it a fun place to explore. We pan around and see our water parterres. The sound of water is everywhere. Some of our permanent foliage plants in chartreuse, and our seasonal foliage plants in white happens to be the theme for this year's color in the East Conservatory. Now we're walking next door to our main conservatory. We get a glimpse of our 2 medium-sized trees on the exhibition hall stage. Now the colors are starting to get warmer. We're starting to get a few reds showing up through there. The exhibition hall stage is made of the original marble that Pierre DuPont installed in 1921 when he opened this conservatory. And as we look down the center here, we get our first glimpse of the exhibition hall floor, which has a beautiful swirl of red and white poinsettias. Now keep in mind, this floor is normally flooded with just a sheet of water for reflection. It's only this time of year we do something special with these water jets and the poinsettias going through. Well, let's have a look at some of these ornaments on here, and I can't tell you how many thousands of icicles we put on these trees. These icicles are all made of glass and 4 different sizes. So again, a fantastic detail that we can do. These trees are roughly about 20 feet tall and they're matching. So I'm not sure if you know how hard it is to find matching trees, but again, we have several tree farms we're working with. We tag these trees multiple years in advance so that we have them for our uses here in the conservatories. We never put the same ornaments on the same trees, so they're always decorated differently. And we don't put the same trees in the same locations. So this happens to be the first year that we put these large trees out on what is originally a fountain. So once January comes, these trees are removed and the fountain will then come back. Going to pan across, and we're going to go into our music room. The music room was built in the late 1920s, again by our founder, Pierre DuPont. And right now the music room is set to look like Christmas morning. So the tree over there, which do you see it revolving? A revolving Christmas tree. And underneath down there, of course, we have the gifts that have been recently opened on Christmas morning. And as we start to look through the music room, there is so much detail in here, it is absolutely ridiculous. So first off, look at these beautiful wire trees made of copper, made by one of our Longwood gardeners. We have another much smaller one. Again, trees made of copper wire, each one individually different. When you back up and look at these beautiful bookcases, which fit into this room so perfectly, the bookcases are brand new. They were built by our carpenters here at Longwood to match the wood in the music room. So the music room does have cherry that goes up the columns. We go up to a ceiling. It's made of wedgewood. And then our floor is actually made of teak. We come down and look. This furniture is all rented. So this is not how the music room always looks. So we change this look. One year, maybe it's a dining room. Another year, perhaps it's a bedroom. This year, it happens to be the living room on Christmas morning. We look over and see some of the antique musical instruments on loan to us from other people. We have a fantastic, what I like to call, walk-in fireplace. It's about 6 or 7 feet tall. The walls in here made of fabric. Behind those fabric walls would typically be the music pipes. Our organ is now next door in the ballroom. The wreaths are made different every year because the theme changes each and every year. As you look out the back door of our music room, it looks like there's a forest out there. Well, that happens to be a patio that we oftentimes entertain people in the summertime. But right now we've just put a lot of trees out there, so it looks like a forest. There's a small little breakfast table starting over here, and the candles, of course, LED candles, so they're really flickering all day and all night. We look into the distance over there, a little tea set, maybe some coffee with some bagels. Of course, that's not real food, so those things are sitting out for the entire Christmas display. So we back up a little bit, we're going to see another set of matching trees. So this room actually has 3 trees in it. We do have matching wreaths behind me, the exact same one. And then we move to our other bookshelf and look at some of the details. We have our collection of nutcrackers, again, on loan to us from people who collect these types of items. This is fantastic, our paper artist, real books that have been cut so that it actually has a fantastic design on the outside. Another marvelous display. We'll pan around to our Christmas village on loan to us. Castles and reindeers, Victorian homes and snow, street clocks and toy shops, and all these old books, again, just on loan to us from old libraries. So the trees in here, again, fresh trees, watered daily. The display opens November, late November, and goes until about January 10th for this year. We're walking into an area we call the PBX. So this is where Mr. DuPont had his changing rooms for guests who would come in the music room. Upstairs we now have offices, but now it's a wonderful place. Looks like a spot you would gather. We see one of our first wreaths, looking at some of the details of the winterberries and the magnolias and the lonicera. I cannot tell you how many dozens of wreaths and trees, each one completely different. As we leave our PBX area, we head into the exhibition hall. We see our first planting bed of mostly white lilies, incredibly fragrant. We have this wonderful silver senecio called angel wings. The leaves are so silver, I mean, they literally are white. They love cool temperatures, they love full sun, they love good air circulation. They are definitely an annual here in our beds, and they're changed out starting in January. So they only last the length of the Christmas display. The blue trees you see, those are Cupressus arizonica, the Arizona cypress. And the tall leaves you see behind them, that is Sansevieria, cultivar Sayuri, wonderful little houseplant called snake plant. So we approach forward, we're seeing one of our first floral trees. This is a real tree that we put a frame inside, and that frame, of course, then has real plants that are in pots on the frame with irrigation. So we have more than 40 individual poinsettias placed in that real tree with irrigation, lights, and ornaments. A Longwood original. Pretty fantastic, I think. As we look down to our planting beds, we have some beautiful alocasia, elephant ears called Polly, and then some beautiful hot pink cyclamen. Behind that, a glimpse of our red poinsettias on the center walk, which go to 2 decorated trees. Again, matching trees, very difficult to find. And then 4 poinsettia standards that we've grown here at Longwood. We're turning down one of our first walkways, and the white fluffy flowers you see on the left, that is Euphorbia leucocephala. I first saw Euphorbia leucocephala in 2000 in Mexico. This is a poinsettia relative, and the beautiful white bract you see, that long skinny thing there, lasts for a very long time. Individual flowers are small and yellow on the inside. These bloom naturally this time of year. They cannot take a frost, much like poinsettias. So poinsettias originally came from Mexico. This cultivar is called Santa Claus Pink, and it is one of the largest poinsettias that we have, with bracts that stretch a good 12 to 15 inches across. Red, white, pink, and peach. Those are some of the colors that we have this year for our poinsettias. Beautiful baskets of Phalaenopsis, so those are moth orchids, probably 125 of those in those baskets. Then we make our way to our acacia passage. The acacia passage, called such for the trees that are overhead, people think they're vines, but those trees actually bloom in February with beautiful yellow puffballs. We have 18 individual containers with white amaryllis and white twigs, a light inside each of those. As we approach the center of the acacia passage, we look to the left and get our first glimpse of our tree in the silver garden, which we'll be looking at from the other side. But fantastic, because look, it's got succulents on the tree, chartreuse icicles, and clear and blue ornaments. If you're keeping track, we have not seen duplication yet. We make our way down the acacia passage, heading to our orchid display. The orchid display has usually 300 to 500 orchids in bloom each and every day of the year. The large yellow wreath you see with Oncidium orchids up top is special, of course, for our Christmas display. But then all the orchids you see blooming now are changed out 2 or 3 times per week. So there's always something in flower. So we have purple flowers like our cattleyas. We have yellow flowers like the Oncidiums. We have orange flowers down here. That's Maxillaria. Did you know that vanilla is an orchid? It happens to be that vine. Not always an attractive flower, but certainly it's delicious. Things in the Oncidium alliance. Tropical lady slippers, like our yellow ones down here. Flowers of the season, like the red cattleya or the white dendrobium. And of course, all that goes back to our history here at Longwood, where the DuPonts were founding members of the American Orchid Society, and we always have white cattleyas in this bronze case, and we always have purple cattleyas in this bronze case. So these cases were built in the 1920s, placed in this very room for the DuPont's original orchid collection, and now the collection has grown so much that they spill out from the cases and cover the walls all the way around. So we have more than 7,000 orchids in our permanent collection, grown in separate locations and brought out here when they're in flower. Orchids like this beautiful red Miltoniopsis, which have to be grown in an air-conditioned greenhouse here at Longwood, and orchids like this beautiful purple cattleya, which are grown in very warm greenhouses, sometimes up to 80 degrees. We have orchids with huge flowers, like this bicolored cattleya, and that's right next door to an orchid which has the most ridiculously tiny flowers you've ever seen, one of our South American species there. So orchids have always been a part of Longwood, and we love showing those off each and every day of the year. We move our way into the Mediterranean garden, and the Mediterranean garden was designed by Ron Lutzko out of San Francisco. He designed this to be a wonderful conglomeration of Mediterranean plants from around the world, but things you would see mostly in California. The dry sandstone pathway resembles that of what you would see in ancient parts of Europe. The stainless steel arches right there, some of the newest materials you might find in horticulture. So a contrast between the oldest gardens in the world and the newest materials. The center in the garden is this meadow of beautiful red amaryllis, with red kalanchoe and white euphorbia diamond frost. And then the tree is a beautiful gradation of ornaments that start at the top, solid white, then they go to pink, then they go to kind of a light red, and then the very bottom of the tree, the ornaments are a gorgeous dark red. So a fantastic way to decorate a tree in our Mediterranean garden, again with plants from all over the world in that season. We have a Bomaria blooming right now. So these are something I saw at the San Francisco Botanic Garden, kind of an alstroemeria relative. They are climbing alstroemeria, some people like to say. We also have some beautiful aloes starting to flower. So this one is called Safari Sunrise. It has a beautiful salmony pink color. Other Mediterranean flowers that are blooming, of course, would be gerbera, daisies. So those are from South Africa. Then we have things like the syzygium, sometimes called eugenia, which is a beautiful variegated selection with a very large sansevieria or snake plant behind it. More cyclamen, more plectranthus, and all of those are growing underneath the shade of our beautiful shyness trees, which are sometimes called the California pepper, even though, just a reminder, they are from South America. As we look down to this beautiful container collection, we have a primulina. So primulina is a type of gesneriad relatives to African violets. It's been blooming for 365 days of the year in this container, right next to a Thanksgiving cactus. Reminders that Thanksgiving cactus usually have truncated leaves, which are kind of flat at the top. Christmas cactus have rounded leaves. You almost always see Thanksgiving cactus, and it's very hard to see an actual Christmas cactus. We move into our palm house, and we see one of our first plant trees. This happens to be an anthurium tree. Anthuriums are native to South America, and these guys were purchased from a local grower in California and then shipped here to Longwood. We custom made a metal frame, and that metal frame was then wrapped with lights. Behind it, some large trees, Pritchardia on the left-hand side, native to Hawaii. The silver palm on the right is Dipsis, and that's native to Madagascar. We have more than 66 species of palms in our palm house. We have cycads as well. We have incredible tropical vines. We have plants from New Zealand, the Seychelles, Florida. We have plants that are native to the United States and ones that are exotic. It's a wonderful place to explore all the wonderful plant material. And the most rare and unusual plant, I think, would be this beautiful specimen of Encephalartos woodii, which happens to be a pup off of the cycad in the East Conservatory. The plant is extinct in the wild. So the fact that we have two of these extinct plants is pretty amazing. As we make our way down our north passageway, we're going to be seeing a glimpse of our bonsai display. So bonsai was not an original part of Longwood's mission, but let's see if the door is open. We're in luck. So now you get to see behind the glass of the bonsai. We have a seasonal tokonoma arrangement, which includes a bonsai tree. We actually have some ornaments on it. It has a fantastic, beautiful scroll behind it, which represents the sky, which is actually an ancient reference to the earth. And the bonsai, it's actually the capture in between the two. So this tokonoma is actually changed seasonally. It was yellow last month with fall, and now, of course, it's red for our Christmas display. We have a bonsai enthusiast who's taking care of these trees. He's absolutely passionate about creating these wonderful works of art. Bonsai, the beauty of them doesn't necessarily come from the age. The beauty does come from the shape. So bonsai are supposed to look like actual trees from the outdoors in miniature size. The miniature size is actually created by wiring. You can see the wiring of these guys deep inside there, by the pruning, by leaving certain dead branches on there. It's overall art above anything else. This wonderful pomegranate we see, we just plucked all the leaves off of. It actually have pomegranates each and every year. We have a beautiful little azalea down here, which will be in full bloom in the springtime. And right now we have some fantastic fall color on our Japanese maple. Just beyond that is a taxodium. This is a bald cypress. Has some beautiful fall color on it. And then we have a very small olive. This olive was trained starting in 1958. It's only about 18 inches tall. Crepe myrtle behind us here. This one started training in 1944. Has the most beautiful exfoliating bark down there at the bottom. And then we have another pomegranate. This one has been in training since, are you ready? 1910. So the trunk itself is actually see-through, and the plant still perfectly healthy, has a beautiful fruit on it each and every year. We have our last tokonoma arrangement in here. Did you know that tokonoma actually dates back more than 500 years? It's a space in the Japanese style that's dedicated to this beauty, often in a reception room. And again, it has the scroll and the bonsai, just give you kind of a sense of time and place, where you are, what you're seeing. So this is a beautiful Japanese black pine that we have there. Here's a quick look at some of our bonsai. We will scoot out of here and see what is happening throughout the rest of our passageway. Beautiful pine cone garland made here at Longwood, using all pine cones that we collected here. 3 or 4 different sizes, all wired together with lights, and it goes about 40 feet. One of our first wreaths we made out of plants. This happens to be ferns and a splenium, and then the red kalanchoe. The whole thing stretches about 4 feet across. And then we have our second look at poinsettia standards. These happen to be pink ones that are grafted onto some of the old rootstock, which comes from Mexico. So make our way down to our trial poinsettias. Each year we try new poinsettia cultivars to see which colors will be best for our displays and which ones are going to grow best in our greenhouses. This cultivar is called Frozen. It's one of the whitest ones that we could have. Our next one is one called Mirage. Has one of the most velvety red bracts that we've ever seen. Then we go to one of the most unusual ones called Autumn Leaves. We definitely love that warm salmony color we have there. And then some of the other cultivars start to look a little repetitive. More reds, more whites, but there is a lot of variation between those, and we spend a lot of time looking at the differences, trying to find which ones have maybe bracts that are a little bit more pointed, as opposed to bracts that are a little bit more veined, where you can see those. Other ones may have leaves that are extremely dark, that may be good or may be bad. Other ones may have bracts that are absolutely huge. So those are the types of details that we're looking for so that we make sure our displays are different and fantastic each and every year. This is one of our growing houses, a backup area where we're producing some of our silver plants, which will be used for replacement of the ones on the displays. And I'll look at some of our children's trees. So these ornaments made by some local school children. So we've got ornaments that are made from things like sweet gum fruits over there, different little pine cones that are wired together, little twigs that are tied together, little wreaths that are made from different types of honeysuckle vines. Get some birch bark, make what look like little owls coming out of there. You get pieces of wood and have what look like duck feet. You get lotus pods, and here we've glued some sweet gum pods to the bottom of those. And all those are, of course, behind our nectarine trees, which are grown in the form of a espalier. We get more than 200 nectarines off of these trees each and every year. And nectarines were the favorite fruit of our founder, Pierre Dupont. So we have more than 12 children's trees in these spaces. We go into another area where art classes tend to have a little bit more fun. They're using more things like pipe cleaners and feathers, and they're cutting out different pieces that represent animals like elephants. They're making trees out of ribbons. They've got little Christmas balls that look like Elmo. And again, pipe cleaners. What fun you can have with those. So all those, of course, made from our local school children. We make our way through the grapery. We're growing grapes indoors so we can have them out of season. We move to our melon house. Melons grown in the dead of winter. But right now, a fantastic Christmas tree with beautiful kind of teal and pink ribbons, ornaments, and icicles. Then we look across the way to all the amaryllis that we have blooming for 2 weeks at a time. Then we change those out to a fresh set. Underneath it, sweet alyssum, which of course has the most fantastic fragrance you've ever seen. We make our way into our fern passage, and we get a glimpse into the rose house at one of our poinsettia trees. We'll look down the fern passage at some of our tropical ferns, some of which 5 or 6 feet across, giant foliages emerging from the ground with red poinsettias, punctuating all of that. Beautiful illuminated birch twigs coming up through the containers. The red and the green, I think, look so fantastic together in the fern passage. Tropical nepenthes overhead. You get a glimpse through the door at one of our chandeliers made here at Longwood by our Longwood craftsmen. We'll talk about those as we get to the other side of them. And then we start to hear water again. So this is the sound of water in our Cascade Garden, which was designed by Roberto Burle Marx out of Brazil, one of his only gardens he designed in the United States. The sound of water reminding you of a Brazilian rainforest, the moisture in the air, the bromeliads, the philodendrons, the colors, the textures of the tropics. A reminder, not everything in the tropics is super soft. We do have these fantastically spiny plants like this ceiba tree. Be a little challenging to crawl up the top of that one, I'd say. And then we see 3 of our tillandsia trees here in the corner. Those are different species of tillandsias put onto a metal frame with Spanish moss, Christmas lights, and Christmas ornaments. Hear the sound of water coming through as our water feature trickles down, and then we make our way into the rose house. The rose house is divided between roses and hibiscus. This time of year, the tropical hibiscus are absolutely fantastic with their flowers that stretch more than 6 or 8 inches across. We have a peek of that chandelier that we saw from the other side. Behind all that is a little bit of bougainvillea. The roses are grown in beds, cut flower type. So back in the day when roses were grown in the United States, this is how they would have been. We have a backdrop of that beautiful white Euphorbia leucocephala, our poinsettia tree made out of variegated poinsettias. And there's a little bit of artemisia in there as well. Again, that frame was made by our Longwood craftsmen. It stretches about 12 feet. It has irrigation throughout the center of it so that we just have to plug the hose in and then the whole thing goes. Down our passageway here we have hollies. These happen to be fastigiate hollies, cultivar called something I'm forgetting right now. So there you go. A beautiful upright growing Japanese holly. Sky pencil, that was it. I knew it would come to me eventually. As we turn our way and look into the tropical terrace, we have more trees made out of bromeliads. The one on the right happens to be pink cerathanthus. In the back, green asplenium. And on the left, a red bromeliad. All types of foliages in our tropical terrace, but the most ginormous fern of all, we're looking up at it right there. That's about 12 feet across. We actually weighed it this year. It's 1,200 pounds, and that happens to be a rabbit's foot fern, Divalia, that will be moving from this space in March. So we never leave the furniture in the same place. We're always changing things around. So that giant fern, 12 feet across, will be moving to a new location here at Longwood in March, so that if you've been here before, you'll see perhaps similar plants, but always in a different location. As we round the corner, we're going into the banana house, which has beautiful orange anthuriums underneath. And as we look up top, today we have some ripe bananas. I'll be watching for some of those to fall later on. These are some of the older cultivars of bananas. They're actually kind of firm, so they're not ridiculously soft, but they are incredibly sweet. So we leave those bananas on the plants for as long as possible so people can appreciate them, and it's an extra special treat today to see the bananas ripe in our banana house. And I've saved one of my favorite gardens for the end. Happens to be the Silver Garden, designed by Isabel Green. The Silver Garden is a collection of silver textures and colors. Our Christmas tree in here is utilizing mostly blues and chartreuse ornaments. In that area, we normally have containers placed, but at Christmas time, we remove those and, of course, put the tree up there. We have a beautiful weeping acacia in the center. Behind it, cactus, recycled from one of our original cactus houses. And to the right-hand side, a wreath made of succulents. So as we get just beyond that, hopefully the light will even out and you'll get to see some of the details that we have on that wreath. We have echeveria, we have aeoniums, we have kalanchoe, fantastic collection on a 4-foot frame. The Silver Garden is meant to be viewed in one direction, so now you're seeing it from the back side, but I think it's equally as lovely with all of the agaves, puyas, and encephalardos. As we leave the Silver Garden, we enter back into the main conservatory onto a walkway with beautiful greenish colored poinsettias. This happens to be a cultivar called Candy Wintergreen. We have red amaryllis mixing with those, and beyond that our blue eucalyptus. Looking up to the sky, you can see some of our poinsettia baskets. We have 18 red poinsettias hanging over our lawn with large citrus trees, and then another of our decorated trees. This one a little bit more traditional with the red and the gold. Each walkway completely different in the main conservatory. Chartreuse and red on this one. As we pan our way around to our center walk, remember those matching tall trees with white poinsettia standards. And then we continue to look down to another walkway, and we have our southeast walk with mostly reds, two different styles of poinsettias, one being the traditional red poinsettia with the flat bract, but the one beside it, very unusual because it happens to be the one with the twisted bract. So that one's called Winter Rose, and behind it, I believe it's Superba Glitter. So just showing the diversity of poinsettias side by side. We'll round the corner and we'll see our last colored walkway with the pink poinsettias. We've mixed those pink poinsettias two shades together. We've also got some fantastic foliage, which happens to be aglaonema underneath them. As we look ahead, we see the beautiful blue of our tree in the East Conservatory. Underneath that, the gold of the poinsettias. This happens to be cultivar called Golden Glow. So these poinsettias, some of the newest hybrids we have here at Longwood, they're very short, only about 12 inches tall, and these plants grown from one of our vendors nearby. We have red twig dogwood, which happen to be silver in this situation, or excuse me, salmon, and they are mixed with some beautiful golden chamaecyparis. We've mixed our golden poinsettias with some lovely dracaena. That cultivar happens to be called Kiwi, and backing it all up, of course, our Euphorbia leucocephala and the poinsettia floral tree. So that has pretty much been a quick walk around our conservatory here at Longwood. Now keep in mind, we do have 1,077 acres for you to appreciate, and we haven't even gone outside. The outdoor lights number more than 500,000, covering trees from top to bottom. We've been putting lights on trees since the beginning of summer, so Christmas begins long before the month of December. And remember, Christmas goes long after, as we don't close our display until January the 10th. Whether or not you want holiday plants, which will be typically red and white, or maybe you have a passion for other foliages from around the world, we have a complete mix of all these types of plants in our conservatory. We have more than 20 individual gardens as we go through here, and you'll always find something in bloom, whether it be holiday plants like poinsettias or the purple thunbergia that we have the vines overhead. Familiar trees like the California arbutus, cultivar marina with that beautiful bark, clivias, which will be blooming in March, viburnums and tree ferns like you might find in warmer climates. Those are all things waiting for you in our large display houses. Perhaps it's a smaller area that you want. Our garden path is one of our most intimate spaces. A beautiful brick pathway, just like you may have in your backyard, with lilies that are forced out of season, tropical foliages like the pink tenanthe, pink flowers like the anthurium on the left, the beautiful purple burst hypoestes, that's a type of polka dot plant. These begonias, yes, they are 6 feet tall. Copper leaf plant in orange, and then the red-leafed cordylines underneath. A fantastic aphelandra called Aphelandra tetragona in bloom right here with those incredible orange flowers. Can't forget to say hi to our Justicia carnea down here called Brazilian plume. So we make our way down to beautiful croton. This one's called Zanzibar. We look up to our red cannas, still flowering this time of year. Beautiful variegated Bergmansia, and then the red of our clerodendron. So with all that, I don't think I could take you on any more of a fantastic journey. I'll turn this around and say thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed looking through our conservatories here at Longwood. I do hope you'll join us at some time. Longwood is open 365 days of the year. Whenever you feel safe traveling again, we'll be here ready to greet you. So happy holidays, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you here at Longwood soon.